Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing the last of my mini reviews. And by last of I mean I'm finally catching myself up. So today I have seven of them. And the first one is Refuge by Dina Neri. This one was the pick for one of the last couple of months for Joss over at Scribbles Reads book club on Goodreads. This book follows a young Iranian immigrant through 4 meetings with her father, the only times she sees her father since she and her mother and brother, I believe, immigrate to the States. They go to the States and then live their lives, move around a lot. The main character in this ends up in Amsterdam with her husband, and so you see that part of it throughout most of it, but you also see the 4 meetings with her father in 4 different cities. I liked that approach. I thought that was a really interesting way to write a book. It's unlike anything I've ever read before. However, the character seemed really aloof and just distant, like she wasn't emotional, and I couldn't connect with her on any level. I did think it did a good job at sort of exploring parts of the struggles that immigrants go through. For example, there's a backpack that's just really important to her in this, and more specifically she needs this spot in each of her apartments that is hers and hers alone, nobody else can touch it kind of thing. So I think it did a good job of that, but the character was just, like I said, really distant and I couldn't connect with her. I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Next was Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. This is a YA book in the DC Heroes trilogy series. I'm not sure which it is, but at any rate, this obviously follows Bruce Wayne. It actually follows him when he's 18. He crashes a car, gets into some trouble with the police, and has to do community service, which they put him into Arkham Asylum to do. He's basically cleans the floor. He's a janitor. But while he's there, he discovers this very interesting young woman who is a Nightwalker, and the Nightwalkers are an underground society in Gotham. He develops a sort of relationship with her. It's not quite a friendship, but it's not a romantic relationship either, and I liked the fact that it wasn't either of them. It was a little bit harder to characterize. I also liked the fact that he wasn't the fully developed Batman we know. He wasn't the fully emotionless, witty, brilliantly fighting man that Batman has come to be. He was an 18-year-old Bruce Wayne. He was still trying to find his place in the world. He was still developing his skills, and you see a lot of those skills begin to develop in this book, which I also enjoyed. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next is The Witch Doesn't Burn in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is a collection of poetry with a feminist bent. It's the second in her poetry collection, the first being The Princess Saves Herself in this one. I liked this one just as much as I liked the first one. This one got 5 stars. The pages are just really blank for the most part. The first one was black on white, this one is red on white, which I like. The language is incredibly evocative. It just brings these vibrant images to life inside your head, and personally I want to draw them on it. I also really enjoyed that this one is more about taking back your femininity and your identity and your strength, whereas the other one was more about being broken down and then finding your way out of it. This one is less so about the being broken and more about the feeling amongst women that we don't need anybody else, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I also enjoy the more modern references in this one. She references quite a few more modern ideas or characters, such as Katniss and The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and that was just really fun. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Then is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is technically the second in her Winter Night Chronicles, I think it's called, but I didn't realize that, so I bought it when I was in the UK because I like the cover and the premise. It reads fine as a standalone. At any rate, this follows Vasya, our main character, as she runs away from home and goes to visit her family in the big city. I think it's Moscow. The book is incredibly well researched. You can really tell that. The writing is fairly simple. It's not choppy, but it's also not these long, involved sentences. But it's also incredibly evocative. You can really feel the Russian winter as you read it, which I loved. I also enjoyed learning more about Russian folklore and fairy tales as I read this book because I didn't know much about it, and this book put those characters into the context of a young woman's life and then just brought them to life. It was amazing. There's also Vasia's sort of refusal to act the way she's supposed to act. Women are married off and then trapped in a tower for the rest of their lives, apparently, and Vasia is just not having any of it, which was highly entertaining to read. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I have The House of the Four Winds by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. This book follows the eldest of 12 daughters of the Duchy of Swansgard, as she, Clarice, goes out into the world to earn her living. Since they have 12 daughters, the duchy can't afford to pay 12 dowries, so each of them, as they reach the age of 18, have to go out into the world and survive on their own. Clarice has chosen to do this by becoming a fencing master, but she has to take a ship over to this other continent, because basically the duchy is in the fantasy version of Europe and she's going to the fantasy version of the States. But on the way there, there's a couple of hitches. The first one being that she gets involved in piracy, and the second one being that they don't ever make it to their destination. Again, piracy. So I really liked that. The plot was a little bit slower than I expected from a Mercedes Lackey book, just because I expected the piracy to happen much faster than starting with at the end of the first third of the book. That said, I adored this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's just a really fun sort of nautical read with magic and pirates and a romance that isn't the focus of the book. She does go undercover as a man because it's a little bit easier to break into the fencing world as a fencing master as opposed to a fencing mistress. But that was also done really well. They didn't change her personality simply because she was pretending to be a guy. They just changed her name and hid where she was really from, because the Swansgard Duchy only has one son and he's, I think, a year old in this, so obviously it can't be him. But that's all. She doesn't hide anything, she doesn't have to, she doesn't lie about who she is beyond her gender. And I thought that was much better done, because in a lot of books where the female character takes on a male persona, it feels as if she's completely changing her personality as opposed to just hiding the things that make her female. And that's honestly all she did in this book, was hide the things that make her female. So I really enjoyed it. And then the last book that I'm going to review, which is the sort of part of the number of books, is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, except I read this on audiobook, or listened to it on audiobook. This is my first time reading them on audiobook, and I'm thoroughly enjoying them. I read somewhere on the lovely internet that Alan Dale can't say pocketed particularly easily, and so when he asked Rowling if he could say Harry put it in his pocket, she said no, and the phrase turned up in the next 6 books as well. So I'm now in the middle of Chamber of Secrets and I've heard it and I have to laugh every time. But that's just a fun little trivial fact that I enjoy. There's also the voices. The voices are incredibly diverse. Some of them, like Hagrid's specifically, sound beyond similar to the actor in the movie, which I love. You can recognize Hagrid instantly. Draco Malfoy throws me a little bit because he sounds more southern than he does arrogant and high class, but he's also pretty recognizable. I just really enjoy these books, 1 for the plot, and 2 because it's always fun to read it in a new medium. Those are all of the books I'm going to review for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up down below. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button down below. As always, I will leave my Goodreads linked in the down bar if you want to check out what I read. But until my next video, bye!